Babes, I feel like when it comes to houseplants, we just tend to limit ourselves to Aroids or the occasional Hoya. Not that there's anything wrong with that per se, even though I'm a Hoya hater and proud. Story for another day. But I've come to realize that in limiting ourselves, we are depriving ourselves from certain unique plants that we can incorporate in our collection. Also, as I have started to decorate my house and my home, I've come to realize that with Aroids, they aren't exactly the easiest to style, which has made me start leaning towards, other interesting looking plants, which is the entire essence of this video. I went digging on the internet and I curated a list of unique and interesting looking plants that aren't your standard Aroid or Hoya. And don't freak out, all these plants are actually quite affordable. They're not exactly like rare unicorn plant. You may not necessarily find them in your coastal farms, your big box stores, but you could potentially find them online. Okay, anyways, I have yapped enough. Without much ado, let's get to the nitty-gritty. I am so excited about this first plant. As I was researching for this video, I just wanted to go online to order it, but I live in a third world country, so I couldn't find where it was being sold online. But the first plant on this list is
2,000 years later.
It's a bonsai mint. Yes, you heard me right. Hang on, before you flee, this is not a herbaceous plant and this is in no way related to the mint family. That being said, oh my goodness gracious, this is such a unique and fascinating plant. If you've ever wanted to grow a bonsai before but you do not have the energy, the know-how, the strength, the time, the vitality, then this is the perfect plant for you. And because this plant just naturally, as it grows, it produces these stems that naturally harden off and gives the plant a natural bonsai look and appearance. So you're basically getting a bonsai plant without putting the extra work and having to, make it a bonsai plant by yourself. It just naturally grows as a bonsai friggin' plant. And also, this is a plant that flowers. It flowers both indoors and outdoors. I saw pictures of this plant flowering and I was extremely fascinated. How are you and I just finding out about the existence of this plant? This is what happens when you restrict yourself to just collecting Aroids. You miss out on beautiful, unique plants like this that God has also created for our enjoyment. So it produces beautiful flowers, and not only are the flowers beautiful, but they're also fragrant and they're edible as well. So in case you're hungry, there's nothing for you to eat, you just pluck the flowers and eat. From what I read, the flowers have like almost like a citrusy sweet taste. Oh my goodness, what is not to love about this plant? Also, none of the plant is toxic, whether to humans or to animals or to pets. Oh my goodness gracious, this feels like the perfect plant that was just made and we all don't know of its existence. It's also not very expensive, because I remember I saw a couple of, I was going through the internet and I saw a couple of websites that stock it. And I'm like, I'm seeing $20, $15. It's not an expensive plant. So why isn't this a common house plant? Oh my God. Also, it is native to South Africa, so it's a fellow African like myself. So plants that are typically native to South Africa, they tend to be quite drought tolerant. I'm assuming if you can take care of something like a jade plant, which is also native to South Africa and Southern Africa, then this should be a walk in the park for you as well. In terms of light requirements, I read that if you give this plant more direct sunlight, it can handle direct sunlight, right? But if you give it more direct sunlight, the leaves will be smaller. But if you want those, bushy, yummy looking leaves, then medium light is generally preferred. So this is honestly a plant that is going to make a great house plant. Also, it's pollinator friendly, actually attracts pollinators. Oh God, honestly, as I was researching for this video, I just wish I could just go online and just order this plant. You guys that live in the likes of the US, Canada, Europe, you guys don't know how lucky you are. Like, this plant is native to Africa. I'm in the same continent as this plant's native range, and I can't find it anywhere online. There's definitely no one in Nigeria that's currently selling it. But yeah, please, this is a fascinating plant that If I were you, I would add to my collection like ASAP. I'm also curious to know, please, have you grown this plant before? Is there any one of you that has grown this plant before or currently has this plant in your collection? I want you in the comments. I will literally pin your comments. I'm so obsessed with this plant right now. I will literally pin your comment. Tell me about this plant. How do you take care of it? Is it easy? Spill the tea for us, please. Oh my god, oh my god. Oh my god, let me calm down. This next one, I cannot pronounce the name. Let me try. Singular leucotricha. Girl, this plant reminds me so much of the icon that is a wild fern because I've seen it in her collection. I think she's the first person I've seen that has this plant, and I've always been so fascinated by it. And I feel like it's native to Brazil, right, which is a tropical / subtropical country. But I feel like if someone in the tundras of Canada, I believe wild fern lives in Vancouver Island, which is so untropical. Girl is literally close to the northern pole, where Santa Claus is. So if she can grow that in her conditions and in her climate, babes, that means you and I can as well. Okay, that is why it's good to always have an idea of YouTubers or people that have grown this plant before, so you can assess the difficulty level and whether it's a practical plant for you to get. So it's a cute little pocket-friendly codex plant, and it produces beautiful flowers, like beautiful orange reddish flowers that are fragrant. I will, however, say that this is a plant that goes dormant. I think I've seen it do so in a Wild Friends collection as well. It goes dormant. Okay, so when it goes dormant, it's going to lose the leaves, it's going to lose the flowers, but don't worry, just continue to, from what I read, just continue to spray the codex when it is dormant, and then it will like grow, you know, back. Also, I also read that this is a plant that you don't want to water the plant, you actually want to water the soil. Okay, so you don't want to water the plant, you want to water the soil. In terms of like soil, nothing fancy, you know. I feel like your standard chunky, you know, Aroid mix, all of you that love the chunky Aroid stuff, will work wonders with it. I also read that it likes sandy to loamy soil. I don't think it's a plant that you want to pot in a very, very big pot, you know, just, you know, something small and cute and portable. It was looking like a very expensive plant to me, but when I did some research, I realized $20 with $30 you can buy this plant. These plants are even cheaper than some of these areas that have us on a chokehold. So girlies, let's explore, you know, other unique plants like this. It's a beautiful one. If I could order it, I certainly will. In terms of light, I read that it's best to give this plant some form of like direct sunlight, nothing too heavy, nothing too intense. Certainly not afternoon sunlight, like some direct mild morning sunlight, and you're pretty much good to go. So yes, it's a fascinating plant that I don't see a lot of you guys that have access to this plant. We in this part of the world, all we can do is just wish and pray that we someday run across it. But you guys that have access to this plant, please, you know, take advantage of it. Don't just stick to your standard, you know. There's more to this plant hobby than Aroids, anthuriums, you know, Hoyas. Let's do better, girls. Now, this next one I have actually grown before, and one of my biggest life regrets is that I sold this plant. Oh God, oh Lord, I've been paid. This is a plant that is actually native to my country. It's native to West Africa. I've yapped enough. It is an African fig tree. I'm going to insert the scientific name. I can't pronounce these scientific names, please, I beg. I'm going to insert the scientific names. But look, it has this waxy, like shiny, like almost rotund-like leaves that grow in like almost like a spiral like form. It's extremely unique. I know it might not be as showy as your fig leaf fig tree, but if you want something different and something that is not as fussy or finicky, then please get this plant. It still pains me till today that I sold mine, but if you're an OG of this page, you'll know why. There was a point in my life where something traumatic happened and I had to sell a lot of my plants to raise money and to move into this wonderful apartment. It was one of those plants that I sold and I have not been able to get it back. It's so ironic that this is a plant that is native to Nigeria, West Africa, yet it is I can't find it being sold here. The growers that sold the plants, they stopped retailing plants. I literally sent them a message this morning while researching this video that please, can you make an exception and just sell this plant to me? Please? Because in my experience, it was really, really easy. I will say, however, I noticed that this is one that doesn't take or handle drought quite well. A lot of ficuses, in my experience, they actually are quite moisture loving. They love to stay moist. This one is absolutely no exception. In my experience, when I left it to stay dry for a bit too long, the leaves were just dropping. I did check, for her prices, and yeah, the prices of this are quite steep for you guys over there. I'm seeing ones of $500, $700. Definitely for, the affluent girlies of society. But if you want something that is unique, not as dramatic as your fiddly fig, indoor friendly, that will make people curious and fascinated, that people will come into your collection and be like, what is this? This is different. African fig tree. Plus, she's native to my country. So please, for that reason, yes, get her. Okay, so the next one is also another ficus that is native to my country. In fact, the common name is Lagos rubber tree, and I live in Lagos. Yes. Now, this is one that grows as a weed, essentially grows as a weed here. I've seen it growing in the gutters, just popping out everywhere here. And it's typically not sold as a house plant, pretty much anywhere. But I've grown this as a container ficus before and as a house plant, and I was absolutely fascinated with it, and I absolutely loved it. I can personally recommend it. I feel like this is a ficus that people haven't really tapped into its house plant potential. So it has leaves that are similar to your fiddly fig, but they're a bit more oblong, and they tend to be a bit more like cascading downwards and a bit more droopy, right? In my experience, this is a fast grower. When I grew it, it was a fast grower, and it is a plant that actually produces multiple leaves at the same time. Like, it's not a plant that produces just one leaf. When I grew it just produces like a cluster of like 4 leaves at the same time while being fast growing. And if you've never ever seen a ficus flower before, this one is a prolific flowerer. Yes, fig trees or ficus trees actually flower. Their flowers don't look anything ornamental or anything like, like your typical flowers. They're just round bulbs. Just round bulb. So this one, in my experience, I remember even when I had it and it was so small, it just started to flower, and I was honestly quite shocked and I was astounded by it. It's also very easy to propagate. Like, if you're someone who struggles with propagating ficuses, this one propagates like a weed. I remember I just took a cotton, stuck it in water, and bam, babe was just give me roots in like days. This was actually my first ficus. I think about it so fondly. In 2020, during the Panini era, and I remember I just went across the street. There was a huge one growing as a bush across my street, and I just cut it, washed it, grew it, stuck it in a container like this, and it rooted. And it's such an amazing plant. I don't see it being sold as a house plant typically. There's only one grower I know of that stocks them. It's the same grower that doesn't retail anymore. She just grows her plants for landscaping. She doesn't retail to individuals like you and I anymore. She's the only one I know that grows this, and she grows a very beautiful, she's trained it to grow very beautifully. I feel like this is being so slept on in the West. You all in the West, you need to write to your coastal farms. You need to send this to a representative of coastal farms, of all your big box stores, to actually start pitching this and growing this as a house plant, because it's a very, very easy ficus. Very easy. Okay, now this next one, we're going to need to approach this one with, some trepidation here, because it may not be for everyone. It's a beautiful one. It's a biophytum sensitivum. I hope to God I got the pronunciation right. So just think of if a palm and a sensitive plant had a baby, this would be the product of such an encounter. It looks like a palm, but it also has sensitive leaves, so to speak. So the leaves are actually quite responsive to touch. If you touch the leaves, like they fold. So you're getting that 2-in-1 effect in a plant. This plant, however, is native to Nepal, the wetlands of Nepal and parts of India. So this suggests to me that this is the plant that loves it really humid and loves it really wet, which might be a challenge for some of us, you and I, that have other things to do with our lives as opposed to just watering plants 247. So I suspect this is a plant that will work best as a terrarium plant. You grow in your terrarium, or if you have one of those glass clove dome thingies that look really cool, this plant could work for it. Or if you have like a greenhouse. But I don't know if this is a practical one. If you just have like a conventional setup, this might be a bit tricky. I also read that this is a spider mite magnet. Yeah, so in my experience, I've noticed that plants that love to stay moist, if they're not given that moist, high humidity condition, they will just attract spider mites. Like spider mites will just latch onto them. So plants like your Sigma glottis, some of your calatheas, which explains why a plant like this is also a spider mite magnet. I suspect it's because, if you don't grow it in conditions that are really humid or really wet, then spider mites will come. Also, fun fact, this is a very herbaceous and medicinal plant. It has anti-inflammatory effect. It is used to treat wounds, can be used to treat asthma. Like, it is really, really beneficial, and it's also edible as well. So in case you're hungry, for some strange reason there's no food in your house, this is, I guess, just cook it and eat it. Is this something you will risk getting? I will not, because I don't think I can cope with a plant like that. But if you are somebody who has if you're someone who has like a terrarium, or you have like a hydroponic setup, this would be a good and unique one. Plus it looks really cute. Right now, this last one, I wish I came up with a longer list, guys, but don't worry, if this video does well, I'm gonna do like a part 2. We could even make it like a series, where every month I try to deep dive and investigate and come up with unique plants that aren't Aroids or Hoyas. Okay, now this next one, I feel like, given where this plant is native to, if you live in a hellfire country, aka Nigeria, where the weather is an oven, this plant will do well in your care. I'm gonna see if I can pronounce, okay, wait, I cannot pronounce the scientific name. I'm just gonna call it the common name, which is pussy ears. Yes, pussy ears. Meow. This one is native to Somalia, which is a very dry, hot and arid country in the Horn of Africa. And I mean, on first glance, you might think this is a Tradescantia. In fact, in some places, it's actually sold and labeled as a Tradescantia, but it is not, darlings. It is not. It has these fuzzy, hairy leaves and has a similar growth profile to a Tradescantia. But if you've been scarred by Tradescantias in the past, if you've tried to grow Tradescantias and it has ended in sorrow and pain, I feel like this would be a great alternative. I feel like plants that are native to Africa tend to be more hardy. Yeah, because life in this continent is tough. So I feel like this one is gonna be a tougher, hardier alternative to your regular Tradescantia. Also, because it is native to Somalia, like I said, not only will it be able to take direct sunlight, so this is one I can actually grow in my climate, but it's also quite drought tolerant as well. So if you live, I would imagine, because Somalia is quite dry, so if you don't have the energy to be watering every 5 minutes, then this is one that you can go for. Or if you live in a very sunny part of the state, like Texas, I've heard is hellfire over there, or California, the southern part of California. I see this working as a good house plant for you. It seems like a ground cover plant, but it is typically sold as a trailing plant. So I don't know if it's one of those ground cover plants that enjoys being grown as a trailing plant. I don't know, but if you've ever grown this plant before, it seems like a relatively common plant and quite accessible from what I saw. If you've ever grown this plant before, I want you to come in the comment section and spill the tea on whether this is actually an easy plant. Would you advise people to get it? Spill the tea. Also, it is one that flowers. I mean, the flowers aren't very showy, but if you just want something that flowers in your collection, go for it. It produces like almost like blue, purplish flowers that look quite similar to the flowers of Itrandescantia as well. So yeah, fascinating. So guys, honestly, I enjoyed making this video. I just found it really fascinating, and I really hope it encourages you to just look beyond aroids. Okay, now if you enjoyed this video, please make sure you like and subscribe, share it amongst your friends, amongst your planting groups, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye, my darlings.